Coming up, after 30 years, Honor the Earth's founder expands its mission, and it's probably the only classical music radio program that features all Native musicians. We'll talk to Renata Yazzie about her unique program. Plus, Republicans make strides in the House. What does that mean for tribal nations? I'm Mackenzie Allen Charmley. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines from the ICT newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
The Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication at Arizona State University is a proud supporter of Indian Country Today. Students at Cronkite News and Gaylord College at the University of Oklahoma cover Indigenous communities together. This important work is distributed by more than 100 news organizations. This collaboration provides a much-needed boost to coverage of Native American communities nationwide. Learn more at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Chinangle, we're so glad you could join us for a new year of coverage. We start with news in Alaska, where a tribal community is relocating due to climate change. The Yupik town of Newtok is destabilizing due to climate change thaws in the permafrost. Located near the Pacific Ocean on the edge of the Ninglik River, Newtok has become one of the first communities in the U.S. to collectively move to a new location because of the climate crisis. To assist tribal communities that have been severely harmed by climate risks, the U.S. government announced in November a voluntary, community-driven relocation program led by the Interior Department. In order to help 11 hard-hit tribes organize their relocation efforts, the department allocated $115 million from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act. $25 million of that funding will go to Newtok for its ongoing efforts to move to a safer place. And in Canada, the Winnipeg Indigenous community is at odds with police over the search for the remains of the missing and murdered Indigenous Native women. Jeremy Skibicki was initially charged with the death of Crane River First Nation citizen Rebecca Contois. Some of the Indigenous women's remains were discovered at the Brady Road landfill in Winnipeg. In mid-December, police said it would not search another privately owned landfill for the remains of two other Native women. But the University of Toronto Forensic Science Director Tracy Rogers says, though it will be challenging, it should be possible to locate the remains. Authorities have agreed to participate in a federally funded study to see if a search is possible. The Winnipeg Police Service charged Jeremy Skibicki with 4 counts of first-degree murder on December 1st. President Joe Biden is approving a disaster declaration for the Havasupai tribe in Arizona. The federal aid was ordered to support the nation's response and recovery efforts in areas affected by October flooding. Funds will be for the tribe and certain nonprofits to share costs for emergency work and repairs from flood damage. Flooding waters destroyed several bridges and trails that are needed not only for tourists, but for tribal citizens as well. The aid comes as the nation prepares to open up its famous turquoise waterfalls to visitors for the first time since March of 2020. Additional funding may be made available at a later date if requested by the Havasupai. One community in Tasmania is growing local produce and teaching kids about native Australian foods. For a lot of people, being able to afford nutritious food is getting harder with the increasing cost of living. A local council has launched a project where produce is grown locally for local people and children learn about native foods. 1/3 of the students in the area identify as Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander. Tony Baker is a participant in the program, and she says it's great to see the community get behind the initiative.
It's just beautiful to see everyone coming together and just have this opportunity to help each other and meet other growers.
The council hopes the whole community will work together on the Food Hub initiative to bring sustainable practices at a grassroots level. In Colorado, a new statewide alert will be sent out when an Indigenous person goes missing. The new system went live last week due to a law signed in 2022. SB 22-150 established the Missing Indigenous Person Alert through the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. The Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relatives Task Force of Colorado pushed for this legislation, which will expand the investigation into cases for missing and murdered Indigenous people. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Honor the Earth uses Indigenous wisdom, music, art, and the media to raise awareness and support for Indigenous environmental issues. Its mission is to leverage this awareness and support to develop financial and political capital for Indigenous struggles and for land and life. Celebrating 30 years, its founder, Winona LaDuke, joins us for a look back and plans for the future. Hi, Winona.
Hi there. Bonjour. Hello.
So just to get started, over the years, you have brought national attention to Native issues, even running for national office. How has your voice brought change to Indian country?
I don't know if I could say that, but I had the privilege of working with a lot of cool Indigenous people over the years, to protect our sacred sites and our ways and stop big, stupid mining projects or nuclear waste dumps. And, a lot of times we are in our communities and nobody really knows, like in the larger world, what is going on because of the geographic, isolation of a lot of our communities. So a lot of our work has been to kind of bring it to light and to be, point out how Indigenous people and Indigenous environmental issues are really central issues for survival of us all.
You've tackled issues from the environment, pipelines, endangered species, all from an Indigenous perspective. What is your message to your opponents and even your supporters?
My opponents, well, you want to drink the water? That'd be good, because we all drink water, no matter how rich we are, or how poor, what color we are, or what our gender choices are. We all drink the water. And in order to do that, you got to protect the water. You got to, figure out how to grow food. You have to figure out how to take care of our soil and reduce the toxins. So the Indigenous environmental issues, Indigenous people have forever been in this covenant, this agreement with Mother Earth and all our relatives, and we know how to live here sustainably. America has never shown any sustainability. Looks like imminent collapse to most of us. So, our traditional knowledge is important to us as Indigenous people, but is also important for the survival of all.
So this 30th anniversary is bringing some changes to honor the Earth. Could you tell us about your new leadership?
Yes, I'm very excited. So this is half my life, just so we all understand that 30 years is a long time to direct an organization and to, go through a lot of different things. But, I'm really proud to have Crystal Tubles join me as a co-executive director for Honor the Earth, now bringing in new, young leadership who wants to go frontline it across the country. And at the same time, adding more board members and senior staff, because the work of Honor the Earth needs to grow. The work of protecting Mother Earth needs to grow. And you see these big environmental organizations like the Greenpeace and Natural Resources Defense Council and Sierra Club. They're multi-million-dollar organizations. There's no equivalent in the Native community with those resources. And we see that there is a full need to be resourcing Indigenous struggles, frontline and national work. And so that's the work ahead of Honor the Earth, working, in collaboration with our communities. We're looking forward to this time and this expansion ahead. And at the same time, we also created a sister organization called King, a community development corporation, which is working on hemp, renewable energy, and local food systems, and the growth of a new generation of leadership. So we see the need to not only be proactive in fighting bad ideas and bad projects, but also it's clear that Indigenous people need to provide the leadership for the green path ahead.
For this new year, do you have any resolutions?
Protect more water, avoid arrest. I don't know. I was arrested a lot last couple of years, but I don't know if I should avoid arrest. Protect our water, get more land back, ensure that there's a new generation of leadership that is trained and is encouraged and nurtured.
And do you have any advice for Native youth?
Yeah, I mean, this is your future, all of our future. And They have a lot of power. They have a lot of knowledge, and it needs to be encouraged. And we believe in you. We believe in you. And listen to your elders, like oldies like me. But there's a lot of people that, you know, have been here a long time before me that fought to make sure that there was a place at the table and that we weren't on the menu. And so be those people that are coherent, as John Trudell would say, and that are thinking for the future generations, you know, and you got this. You got this, and we're going to do this together.
Well, Winona, with over 30 years of experience, what is your favorite part of what you do?
You know, I love doing community organizing work. I love, you know, seeing art and music bring love to people's lives and hearts. You know, I love when, you know, when we are able to defeat an enemy, you know, and protect our water, that sigh of relief, you know, like they're going away. The Wendigo's gone. And I love seeing beautiful things grow in our communities. You know, a lot of our work now, I work with the Horse Nations, and I see the growth of the, you know, Horse Nations work and the joy and the healing that occurs, you know, in our community as we make our future plans. So, you know, I can say that Honor the Earth has given me a good life and given a lot of support to a lot of Indigenous struggles. We've given away, you know, millions of dollars to the frontline groups, but we've also really brought a lot of art and music and encouragement, you know, with over 200 concerts and lots of, you know, direct action support. So happy to and honored to have served as the executive director of Honor the Earth, and now happy to share that responsibility with Crystal Tubals.
That's so beautiful. Well, Winona LaDuke, thank you so much for joining us and making time today.
Miigwech, thank you for having me, and you guys have a good day out there.
There are a few Indigenous people in the professional world of classical music. One young Diné woman has her degree in music and now hosts a radio program featuring all Native composers and musicians. Senior correspondent Patty Talahongva spoke to Renata Yazzie about her love for this type of music.
The world of classical music is familiar to Renata Yazzie, and she has spent her life basically learning how to play piano and mastering that. And today she's the host of a radio program called American Classical Voices on a station in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Welcome, Renata.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you started playing piano when you were 3 years old. Tell us how that happened.
Yeah. So my mom plays piano. And she plays quite well, actually. And she was my first teacher. So we had a piano in the house, and I just began picking out tunes by ear by myself when I was about 2. And then my mom started teaching me when I was 3. And from after my 4th birthday, she thought, okay, this toddler has held her attention on this. So we continued from there.
Wow. You know, and it's when you think about how far you have to move your fingers on a keyboard, what was that like as you grew and was able to play more complicated pieces?
Yeah. So I come from a family of weavers, and my dad's side, we all have big hands. So I had big hands, and my hands, I can do like a 180 stretch on both sides. So I can play a 10th in both hands comfortably.
What goes through your mind when you're playing and your fingers are just flying across the keys?
I'm probably thinking about what notes I'm playing next, and also kind of the expression that I want to bring out, what kinds of moods I want to express through the keys, and that's kind of where my headspace is when I'm performing. And also if you're making sounds that I can hear on stage.
You mean the audience? If the audience is rustling around?
Yeah, that's distracting.
That's good to know as a performer, and how the audience can impact your performance itself. Well, let's take a listen to a little bit of your piano recital. Tell us a little bit about your radio program and how you started that and the people you feature on that program.
Yeah, so American Classical Voices, we feature conversations and music from a composer or variety of composers every month on the third Thursday at 6 p.m. And I've been talking with composers from different tribes, and they all compose different varieties, different kinds of music, different genres of music even. And we sit there and we talk about their influences and talk about the pieces and talk about, their compositional voice and what inspires them. And then we hear those pieces at this, right after the interviews. So that's kind of the format of the show.
And you actually have had a number of really great guests that we've also interviewed, like Jared Tate and Raven Chacon, who of course won a major award last year.
Yeah, the episode with Jared Tate was actually very special because it also featured John Harrington, who is the Chickasaw astronaut and the first American Indian in space. And we talked about Jared's piece, which John narrates, called Moonstrike. And it talks about different moon stories from different Native communities around North America. So that was a very special episode. We've also featured Charles Shadle, who is a Choctaw composer, teaches at MIT, and Jacqueline Wilson, who's a Yakima bassoonist.
A bassoonist?
Yes.
In terms of motivating a young person who may not even realize they could make piano playing and classical music a career, what would you say to them?
Ooh. This is what I always tell people. I always say to go forward with a humble heart, because when you're humble, you're willing to learn, you're willing to roll with the punches a little bit, and you don't think so high and mighty of yourself to the point that it's destructive. And you can form good collaborative relationships, and people are willing to work with you. People are willing to help you when you are approaching music and collaborative experiences with a humble heart. I also have the American Indian Musician Scholarship, which funds Native undergraduate students who are pursuing any degree in music. So you can also check that out as well. heartbeatmusicproject.org/AIMS-scholarship. Yeah, and the next year, this coming year, we'll be featuring a lot more composers, also from Canada, First Nations composers, again, from all different varieties of art music and instrumental music. And we will also be hosting or featuring past episodes up on the website of the radio station, khfm.org, where you can go back. You'll be able to go back and listen to past episodes with people like Raven Chacon and Jared Tate and Charles Shadle. That will be coming up towards the end of January or so.
Very good. Renata Yazzie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Renata Yazzie will have a new episode on January 19th, and you can listen to it live on KHFM Radio. We'll be right back. The balance of power has shifted in the U.S. House of Representatives. What does this mean for Indian country? Joining us today is John Tsuda. He's a regular contributor to the ICT newscast. Kiowa from Oklahoma. He's a principal with Navigators Global. Hi, John.
How you doing? Good to be back.
I'm doing great. So yesterday, Kevin McCarthy failed to win enough votes to be seated as the Speaker of the House after 3 votes. And this is just a note to viewers. We are recording this Wednesday morning before the House is set to reconvene at noon to take another vote. What does this mean for the future of a House divided?
Well, first off, it's a little auspicious, I think, that it's exactly 100 years ago the last time that there was multiple votes to seat a speaker. Interesting. I guess this is a once in a century happening, maybe. But we are in sort of auspicious times, and really reflects the broad variety of views within the Republican caucus in the House. It's in these years recently we've seen, it's not just Republicans. The Democrats on their side have had a great variety of views and opinions and had some sharp discussions, both internal and public. Republicans in the past have often been good at keeping those internal discussions internal, but this seems to have broken out in the public. And so it certainly makes for good news and interesting times. But at the end of the day, if they're going to assume control of the House, the Republicans have to get together, elect a speaker who will put forward their agenda and be prepared to govern, from one arm of Congress.
And in your home state, Oklahoma, newly elected Josh Brackeen Choctaw voted for Representative Jim Banks from Indiana, who actually voted for McCarthy. Is this a bold move for him?
Well, so I think there's 2 ways to look at it. One is, so Mr. Brackeen is, a newly elected member coming from a state house where the procedures and the manner of conduct and dealing with each other informally is very different than in the U.S. House. So I think it is a little, you could say it's a bold move on his part, but there's certainly obviously a number of other members who have some discomfort with electing Mr. McCarthy to be the speaker. And so, that certainly means he's not out there alone. There are others who are expressing many of the same concerns that he has. I think at the end of the day, like others that are raising these questions, he's going to have to work with his caucus to find some answers to the questions that he has and be able to work forward. I think that will include some mechanisms so that they can, if the process in the House is not working to their satisfaction, that they will be able to make some adjustments, sort of midstream, if you will. And maybe that's how they will get together and coalesce around a speaker.
The Republicans gained a majority of the seats in the House. While it's not overwhelming, what changes do you think that this means for Indian country?
Well, I think that the changes you'll see will be sort of in how the federal government handles its own work. We all know from Indian country, there are good years and bad years. There are folks in federal office that are helpful, folks that are not. The real question is, how does the federal government ultimately meet its trust and responsibilities to tribes and to tribal people? With a different party controlling the House, and the House often engages in a lot more either investigative or oversight, however you want to phrase it. They engage in a lot more activity over administrations in that regard. And when you have an opposite party, as you do now, in control of the House, I think that we'll see, at least in the beginning, a lot of that activity, some oversight, some review of actions taken in the last 2 years and proposed actions over the next couple of years, and sharp questions for those. And I think that's actually good for Indian country. As always, the federal government struggles to meet its responsibilities to tribes. It has in the past, made big promises and rarely delivered on those. And so some of those, I think, are questions that are fair game to be asked. And when you're in the opposite party from the president, I think you feel a little more freedom to ask those tough questions. Like with IHS, you've been given a lot of money over the last few years. What are you doing with that? Why are we not seeing increases in health numbers for tribal people? Why are we not seeing a burst of new facilities? There's a lot of money put there that could increase the services and improve the physical services for tribes. And it seems to be a little slow rolling out. So there are sharp questions that can be asked, but it's all at the end of the day to the benefit of Indian country, I think.
Well, John Tasuda, thank you so much for joining us for our new year.
Thank you. Great to be back for the new year.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
Sometimes you got to take a stand just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.
The Sand Creek Massacre, the betrayal that changed Cheyenne and Arapaho people forever, focuses on tribal accounts of Colorado's deadliest day. Exhibition details at historycoloradocenter.org.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.